Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you all the new feeds and changes to feeds that are included in the D&D Player's Handbook All-in-One Beyond mod. This is made by Yoonmoonsik here, and I've counted it out. There are 110 new feeds included in this, and I'm not talking about these type of feeds. We're talking the new Forgotten Realms Heroes of Faerun, and my favorite, the Cold Caster here. There's also some favorites like the Elven Accuracy here, and even some that come from like Lord of the Rings role-playing. And some major changes. The most overpowered feat in base game Baldur's Gate 3 Alert is heavily nerfed. It is now only your proficiency bonus, and the initiative die is no longer a D4, it's now a D20. So previously that +5 means you're rolling higher than the initiative die. That doesn't happen anymore. I also want to mention that in the description here, there's also a link to their GitHub where you can get all the information, and if you click on one of these here, it's going to take you to where it's referenced in the D&D Beyond. And a few other things I want to mention just off the bat here is that some of them require a certain stat requirement, which is how it works in D&D. Baldur's Gate 3 does have homebrew that made things a little bit easier, but this is adapted from the Player's Handbook rules as written for the most part here. But I actually got some questions about the ones that you need a 99 charisma for. These are just like headers showing you what type of mods these come from. So these are all the Xanathar's Guide to Everything, whereas these are like Fizban's Treasury of the Dragons. There's also the very popular The Crooked Moon. I just want to highlight this one here, which I think is a very strong one, the Swift Witchcraft, because normally you can only cast one spell per turn with this mod update. This lets you do 2 spells per turn, and it gives you a boost to one of your spellcasting stats. But we'll first be starting off with the base game feats and what's changed about them. Ability score improvement, nothing really changed here. The actor feat requires your charisma to be higher than 13. And this makes sense. I can't imagine an actor with like an 8 charisma. Actually, I can think of some. Still a really good feat, and proficiency bonus still doubled for deception performance checks. With deception checks coming up pretty commonly, this is decent. Alert, however, again, heavy nerf here as it's only going to be a proficiency bonus. So at the time of taking it, it only gives you a +2 to your initiative. At level 5, it then becomes a +3, and at level 9, it becomes a +4. So yeah, with the D20 initiative die, Alert ends up dropping in its effectiveness. The Alert feat, Athlete feat, actually receives a surprising buff because of how jump works. Now, if you want to jump, you just use your movement speed. It no longer takes a bonus action. So this is really nice because this is just going to give you extra movement speed. I guess mobility, because yeah, you're going to be jumping a little bit more with this rule set change. So this one's not bad. +1 to physical stat there. Now Charger got a nice buff and now lets you put up one of your physical stats +1 and still let you just keep those charging attacks. So this is actually nice. Charger was previously not something that's even really worth taking. Now Crossbow Expert is also changed because you now have to load your crossbows. So this ignores the loading property, shoot without disadvantage in melee, and add your ability modifier to the damage of a hand crossbow's offhand attack. And it also gives you a nice +1 to dex. All in all, this is a really nice change. I'm personally a pretty big fan of Crossbow Expert just because there's a lot of cheesy ways you can use this in the base game. So it's nice to see this actually buffed up with the 2024 rule set. Defensive Duelist. Now Defensive Duelist does require a finesse weapon. Doesn't really state that as proper in the base game of Baldur's Gate 3, but this now gives a +1 to dexterity. So another one that just got a nice buff. There's quite a few actually like this that now get stat bonuses or let you choose stats. Dual Wielder, same thing here. You can use 2 light weapons that aren't light. You cannot dual wield 2-handed weapons, and you can make an extra offhand attacks per the attack action instead of as a bonus action. So if you really want to use that offhand attack, instead of following up with the bonus action attack, you can just do the offhand attack freely. So interesting choice. And it also, again, gives that stat boost, which is amazing. We also have the Dungeon Delver, advantage on perception, investigation, dexterity checks. I mean, it can have its uses. Dexterity checks come up quite frequently. It also gives advantage saving throws to avoid traps and resistance to trap damage, and you can see in the dark up to 36 meters and a +1 to your stats. Much better than it was normally in Baldur's Gate 3. This is naturally one that you would never pick, but now it's actually, hey, it's a choice. Durable, you increase your constitution by 1, and you also get advantage on death saving throws. And as a bonus action, you expend 1 hit point die, roll it, and regain hit points equal to the results. Much better than what it was in base game Baldur's Gate 3, just expending your getting full health on a short rest, which is okay, but I mean, there's so many ways to get health in this game. I also want to just quickly mention it when I brought up short rest, is that in this new update, you have to use the hit point die to recover your health. I've gotten a lot of comments saying the game's bugged because it makes your short rest not heal. It's just the rules that change how 2024 Player Handbook works. So Durable got reworked into an interesting new feed, and I think it's actually nice. Now, Elemental Adept is actually much better now too, because keeping the same benefits it had previously with the not rolling a 1 and ignoring resistance, you can also put up one of your stats. Amazing stuff. There's also a great Weapon Master, which Catches a bit of a stray here. When attacking with a melee or ranged weapon you're proficient in and are wielding in both hands, the damage is increased by your proficiency bonus. So it's good because it helps out with ranged weapons, but it's nerfed because it's not going to be that plus 10 damage anymore, which if you're using something that does piercing damage could end up being doubled. So there's a lot less cheesiness, but I think it's still really good because when you land a critical hit, you do get a free attack. Heavily armored lets you get proficiency in heavy armor and a +1 to one of our stats here. Previously it was a +1 to strength, now you get constitution. That's nice as well. Heavy armor master also gets a nice change. It's now reducing incoming piercing, bludgeoning, and slashing damage by your proficiency bonus when wearing heavy armor. Much better than what it was previously. Well, I guess it just ends up being a +1, and if you use higher level mods, it actually goes a little bit higher than that, but lightly armored gives you a +1 to dex or strength and armor proficiency in light armor. There's a lot of classes that no longer get armor proficiencies, so some of these things are a lot more valuable. Luck points, one of my favorite feats in this game, is still as good as it was. You can use this to gain advantage on attack rolls, ability checks, saving throws. It doesn't use your reaction. It can be a lifesaver, especially if you're doing honor mode. Mage Slayer's got a cool change. I actually really like the change to this. This is something I thought should be a little bit better, and it plays well in Baldur's Gate. When you damage a creature that's concentrating, it has disadvantage on the saving throw to maintain concentration. If you fail an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma saving throw, you can cause yourself to succeed instead. Once you do this, you cannot do it until you finish a short or long rest, and a +1 to your strength or dex. This is honestly pretty good because a saving throw, forcing a success on it, is honestly pretty good. Like if that was just the feat, this would be solid. But you also get to break concentrations more likely and get a bonus to your stats. Mage Slayer has got a nice buff just due to the others not being as good. The magic initiates are actually interesting too because they are now a class action which lets you choose 2 of those spells while you're playing. It doesn't let you just choose them at the level up screen here. You actually get to choose them as you go. So you'll use your ability here and then they pop up and you got a lot of selection. It may be a little bit difficult if you're using hotbar mods here, and it may be a little difficult on console, but they'll have all the different spells here and you can choose from them and you can add these to your book. You get spell learning points and cantrip learning points as a hidden resource here, which lets you learn these. And you can actually see all of them in if you go to your spell list here, and for some reason it won't let me go down even further, but you can see the Blood Bolt Necromancy cantrip there is on my hotbar, so you can now use it. Martial Adept, which is a tough feat to use because you only get 1 Battle Master superiority die. That does mean 1 riposte, which is really nice, but it also now gives you a +2 strength or dex. Good change. With the Medium Armor Master, it does not give you disadvantage on stealth checks. The bonus to armor class you get from dex is now a +3 instead of +2, and you get to boost up 1 of your stats. The Mobile feat, your movement speed increases and difficult terrain does not slow you down when you dash. And if you move after making a melee attack, you do not provoke opportunity attacks, and you get a +1 to dex or constitution. The Mobile feat got a really nice buff because it used to just give you that extra movement speed. Getting a bonus to your stats as well is a very great change. Moderately armored, same deal here, proficiency in medium armored and a +1 to strength or dex. Performer. This is an interesting one because of the new heroic inspirations, so you can use this to be able to recover your teammates' heroic inspirations, the number equal to your proficiency bonus. Polearm Master, when attacking with a glaive, halberd, or quarterstaff, you can use your bonus action to attack with the butt of your weapon, and you can do an opportunity attack when someone comes in range, and a +1 to your stats. Again, nice change. Resilience here gives you a +1 to a stat and gives proficiency in that ability saving throws, as good as it used to be. Ritual Caster, this gives you a bonus to 1 of the stats here, and you can cast these 3 spells. This is the only selection. Now this is a buff and a bit of a change. It used to not have the +1 stat, but it used to be able to get things like Speak with the Dead, Find Familiar, Disguise Self, and Speak with Animals. So yeah, now Featherfall is included here where it previously wasn't, and these 2 are still the same, but you can only choose from those 3. Savage Attacker, my beloved, still as good as it always is. When making a weapon attack, you roll your damage die twice and use the highest result. And actually, due to some of the other feats in this being not as good, this stonks went up, and Savage Attacker, it's an amazing feat. Sentinel also got an amazing change. This is a good one in base game Baldur's Gate 3. When an ally enters your attack radius and attacks an ally, you can use your reaction to attack them as long as they do not have the essential feat, and you gain advantage on opportunity attacks this way and a +1 to a stat. So again, nice change. Sharpshooter, this one is way different. Attacking within 5 feet of an enemy does not impose disadvantage on your attack roll with ranged weapons. Kind of similar to how the crossbow expert works. It increases the range of attacks with ranged weapons by 1.5 times. You can shoot further and you're more deadly at close range, and you get a +1 to dexterity, so nice change. Shield Master. This one got a bit of a change. So if you attack a creature within 5 feet of you as part of the attack action and hit with a melee attack, you can immediately bash the target with your shield if it's equipped, forcing the target to make a strength saving throw, DC 8 plus strength modifier and proficiency bonus. On a failed save, you can either push the target 5 feet from it or cause it to have the prone condition, your choice. You can only use this once on your turns, and this is a strength +1. Pretty cool change, honestly. Shield Master is much better now. Skilled, gain proficiency in 3 skills of your own choice. Nice. Spell Sniper. This is interesting. Casting in melee, being 5 feet of an enemy does not impose disadvantage on your attack rolls with spells, increases range, and increase the range of spells you make by attack roll by 50%. So kind of similar to Sharpshooter. This is more so for close and very long ranges, and it also gives you a plus to your spell casting stat. So it used to give you increased crit chance and will give you a cantrip like Eldritch Blast. No longer can it do that. It's cool. Tavern Brawler. This basically just became Savage Attacker for fisties or fist attacks. So yeah, the monk has a cool new identity in the 2024 Player's Handbook, but Tavern Brawler is so cheesy in Baldur's Gate 3 that I do think that if you're a big fan of the big numbers from the monk, it's going to be a little different now with Tavern Brawler's change. So just a heads up on that one. Tough is still going to give you the 2 health points for every level, so this one didn't end up changing. Warcaster has a cool change. You get advantage on saving throws, same as it always was, but you can use your reaction to cast a single target cantrip or spell at a creature moving out of melee range, and you get a +1 to a stat. Cool. The cool thing is you can use whatever cantrip you want. If it targets a target, you can use it now. It's not just Shocking Grasp. That's a nice change to be up to date with the rule set. Weapon Master here. Your training with weapons allows you to get proficiency with martial weapons and to use the weapon masteries. This gives you a plus to your stats, gives you those weapon mastery toggles, which can give disadvantage to the target's attacks if you sap them, and adding a proficiency bonus to attack rolls with martial weapons. This is a pretty solid choice. It now actually feels impactful for someone to take this. Normally, you could just multi-class and get weapon proficiencies, but yeah, this is a lot better. There's now Blood of the Titans here, so nope, that's a different mod. We're now moving on to the spells from the Player's Handbook. So these are ones that are included if you play D&D. You'll be very familiar with a lot of these. I've seen comments about them over the years. The Feat Crusher. Your bludgeoning damage ignores resistance. When you deal bludgeoning damage to a creature, it must succeed a wisdom saving throw or be dazed until the end of its next turn. When a target's dazed, they have disadvantage on wisdom saves for things like command and hold person. This also gives you a +1 to strength or constitution. Bonk bros, live on. Our hammers are now stronger than ever with this feat. There's also Fey Touched. Choose one level 1 spell from the Divination or Enchantment School of Magic. You always have that prepared, and the Misty Spell, Step spell. You can cast each of these spells with expending a spell slot. Once you cast this way, you cannot cast the spell this way again until you finish a long rest. You can also cast these spells using spell slots if you have the appropriate level and a +1 to a stat. And here are the selectable stats with things like Hex, amazing, and also Command being a really nice spell to have. We also have the Healer feed. When you heal a creature with 1, it's supposed to go 1.5 meters, you can see it from here, allowing that creature to expend 1 of its hit point die and regain health points equal to that amount. Just a nice accessory to providing a bit more heal for your team. Since combat lasts a little bit longer, healing is better now than it was in Baldur's Gate 3 basic vanilla mode. Next is the Inspiring Leader. So you can give a speech, a song, or dance. This is great for roleplay. When you do so, 6 allies, which can include yourself, within 1.5 meters, 9 meters of yourself, can get a bonus temporary health equal to your character level plus spellcasting modifier. So that's nice. That's good for like a paladin or really any type of mixed spellcaster, melee attacker, buffer type class. Next is the Mounted Combatant. This is a cool one. While mounted, you have advantage on melee attack rolls against any creature that is medium or smaller. You do not fall off your mount even if you take damage. So mounts are a new thing that's included in this. There's a couple, and there's like spectral steeds, and the paladin gets their own mount as well. You can fall off your mount, but this makes it so that you don't fall off. Cool, actually, combination, because you can then use your feats to give yourself that mount and be good at it and get advantage on your attack rolls. Piercer. The piercing damage will now ignore resistance. When you deal piercing damage to a creature, must do a Constitution saving throw or get gaping wounds. This gives a +1 to strength or dex. Piercing damage suffers kind of a nerf because Baldur's armor is no longer as crazy as it was. So it's nice to have some feats that power up the different damage types. Poisoner, I like this one. When you do a damage roll that deals poison damage, it ignores resistance to poison damage. You can create a number of poison doses equal to your proficiency bonus. As a bonus action, you can apply a poison dose to a weapon or a piece of ammunition. This works well with the Green Reaper Ranger, which is added in this mod. When a creature takes poison damage, that creature must succeed a Constitution saving throw, DC 8 plus modifier and proficiency bonus, or have the poison condition, which gives them disadvantage on attack rolls until the end of your next turn. That was a mouthful, but you also get the experimental alchemy here, which lets you brew up 2 alchemical solutions, and if that wasn't enough, +1 to dex or intelligence. Everyone can still use dex for armor class. So yeah, Poisoner is a really fun feat. Shadow Touch. Choose one from the spell here from the Illusion or Necromancy School. This is the selectable with the new Wrathful Smite that does necrotic damage. You always have that and invisibility prepared. This is like the antithesis to the Fey Touched. You can cast each of these spells without expending a spell slot, and once you cast a spell this way, you cannot cast it until you do a long rest, and a +1 to a stab. Skill Expert. You can choose one ability score to +1, and you can gain a proficiency in one skill of your choice. And you also gain, you only can do this if you have the proficiency but lack expertise. It's an interesting choice. It can round out some different builds, and I encourage you to try around with it. Skulker. You have blind sight with a range of 10 feet. You can exploit distractions of battle, gain advantage on dexterity, stealth checks you can make as a part of the hide action during combat. If you make an attack roll while hidden and the roll misses, making the attack roll does not make you turn visible. It's cool for stealth-based classes. Slasher. Now moving on, since we have the Crusher and the Piercer, Slasher makes so that you ignore slashing resistances and can apply bleeding if they fail a con save, and a +1 to strength or dexterity. I still think Crusher ends up winning. Dazed is just really nice, especially in Baldur's Gate 3 and due to how the combat plays out, but I do like all three of these. Telekinetic. As a bonus action, you can telekinetically shove one creature you see within 30 feet of you. When you do so, the creature must succeed a strength saving throw or move 10 feet away from you. +1 to one of the mental saves, or mental stats there. Pretty sweet. And finally, from the Player's Handbook, we have the Wild Talent. This one is actually pretty cool. It has a variety of different buffs that you can choose from. These are manipulating elements, life touch energy, perceiving the emotions of others. I'll just go through them here. So we have the Kinesis. Whenever you deal lightning damage with a spell or cantrip, you gain 2 lightning charges, you know Shocking Grasp, and you always have Fog Cloud and Gust of Wind prepared. You can cast each of them once a day without expending a spell slot. I like this because lightning charges are so fun. Biokinesis. This gives you Spare the Dying, and whenever you heal a creature, you can add a 1d4 on top of that, and you'll always have the Healing Word and Arcane Vigor spells prepared when you have this and cast them for free. Clairsentience. Whenever you make a wisdom check, you can give yourself advantage on the roll, and you get guidance and protection from energy, protection from evil and good, and invisibility for free once per day. Cryokinesis. This gives 2 turns of Encrusted with Frost on the targets when you deal cold damage. You get Ray of Frost, Armor of Agathis, and Ice Knife. Those are some great spells. Empath. This gives you the Friends cantrip, and you can give yourself advantage on a charisma roll. You also get the spells Sleep and Calm Emotions for free. The Flesh Morpher. When you make a dexterity check, you can gain a bonus equal to your intelligence modifier, and you always have Long Strider and Bark Skin prepared. The Mind Whisperer can apply mental fatigue when you do 2 turns, or whenever you apply psychic damage, which gives them mind assist to their mental saves by 2. Pretty crazy, and can stack up. You know the Mind Sliver cantrip and get Dissonant Words and Mind Whip for free each day. The Side Trickster. When you make a charisma check, you can then add your intelligence bonus to it. You get Minor Illusion, Hideous Laughter, and Crown of Madness. The Kineticist. This, whenever you deal thunder damage, applies 2 turns of reverberation on the enemy. You get the Concussion, Cantrip, Thunder Wave, and the Shatter spells prepared. And the Pyrokinesis here. 2 turns of heat when you deal fire damage. Heat's still kind of rough to play around with, but you also get Produce Flame, a very underrated cantrip, and Burning Hands and Scorching Ray. That is a lot of tough to say words all back together, but this is a cool feat. It has so many different ways you can play elemental wise. Now we're moving on to Xanathar's Guide to Everything. There's some cool dragon themed ones here, starting off with Dragon Fear. You have to be a dragonborn to use this, but any creatures you choose within 30 feet must do a wisdom saving throw, and on a failed save, the creature becomes frightened of you for 1 minute. This turns out to be 10 turns due to how 6 seconds per turn in the tabletop D&D translates over to Baldur's Gate 3, so just a heads up on any of those. Dragon's Hide. As a dragonborn, your scales can harden. When you're not wearing armor, you can make your armor class 13 plus dex modifier, basically giving you like built-in mage armor, kind of like the Draconic Sorcerer in the base Baldur's Gate 3, and a +1 to your stats here. Dwarven Fortitude. Dwarves get something sweet. Well, you can heal yourself when you use the dodge action in combat, and the dodge action is actually a new one. It also gives you a Constitution +1. This is nice because Constitution can be benefited everyone. The Elven Accuracy, though, this is one that a lot of people love. When you're an elf or a half elf, whenever you have advantage on an attack roll using dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma, you gain a +1 to the attack roll and you cannot critically fail. And also the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking with ranged weapons is reduced by 1. This effect can stack. If that wasn't good enough, you also get a +1 to one of your stats here, so you can max out dexterity and things like that, while also boosting up your spell casting, or range, even spell casting, range weapon attacking, all of the above. The feat Fade Away for gnomes. You can turn invisible as a reaction after taking damage once per short rest, or long rest too, and you get a +1 to either dex or intelligence. Pretty sweet. Fey Teleportation. You learn Misty Step and can cast it once without expending a spell slot. You regain the ability to cast it this way when you finish a short or long rest. Intelligence is your spellcasting modifier. So yeah, you also get to choose an intelligence or charisma increase. Flames of the Phlegethos. This is a tiefling one. Whenever you roll fire damage for a spell, you cannot roll a 1 on the damage die. Additionally, whenever you cast a fire damage spell, you can wreath yourself in flames until the end of your next turn, causing creatures within 5 feet who hit you with a melee attack to take a 1d4 of fire damage, and a +1 intelligence or charisma. Infernal Constitution. You have to be a tiefling, but you get resistance to cold and lightning damage, which is nice, and you get advantage in saving throws against being poisoned, and a +1 to Constitution. Orcish Fury. For a half orc, when you land a critical hit with a weapon, you deal an additional die of weapon damage because they don't have that anymore. And immediately after you use your Adrenaline Rush trait, you can use your reaction to make 1 weapon attack. This makes half orcs still really strong. It's nice to see. Second Chance, Halfling. When a creature you can see hits you with a attack roll, you can use your reaction to force that creature to re-roll. Once you use this, you cannot use it until you roll initiative for another combat encounter. You also get to take a +1 to Dex, Con, or Charisma. And Squat Nimbulus for Dwarf or Small Race. Increase your walking speed by 5 feet. You have advantage on any strength or dexterity acrobatics checks, basically so that you don't get slipped or pushed around, and then you can escape from being restrained. You also get to take either acrobatics or athletics, proficiency, and a +1 to strength or dex. I love how many options you get with some of these feats. Next, we got the Tasha's Cauldron of Everyone. You may be actually pretty familiar with some of these, as there's mods that are available already on console and PC that have similar abilities, but this is expanded with all the new things that are added with this. So first off, we got the feat Fighting Initiate. Your martial training has allowed you to get a particular fighting style. You can learn one of these fighting styles, and you also get a +1 to strength or dexterity. Things like shooting is a bonus to your armor or to your range attacks, and then there's even blind fighting, which gives you blind sight with a range of 3 meters. When in that range, you can effectively see anything that isn't behind total cover, even if you're blind or in darkness. So there's some pretty cool fighting styles too. Eldritch Adept. So this lets you choose from all the different Eldritch invocations here, with some of my favorites being like Eldritch Spear, which will increase your Eldritch Blast range. So yeah, these are interesting. They do, some of them notes they need to have Warlock level 2 or higher, but hey, love some more Eldritch invocations. And we also got the Meta Magic Adept here. Now, Quicken Spell actually takes kind of a nerf, because you can still only cast 1 spell per turn even with this. So it also introduces the Empowered spell, which was cut from Baldur's Gate 3, but it's nice. I'm a Sorcerer fan, so I like these. Now we got the Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. We got the Gift of the Chromatic Dragon. You can use a bonus action, imbue a weapon with elemental damage for 1 minute and 10 turns, dealing 1d4 of the chosen elemental once per long rest. Also, you can use your reaction to gain resistance to an elemental damage type and equal a number equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. This is great for the new Oath of Noble Genies Paladin subclass, so pretty cool stuff. Love elemental damage. The Gift of the Gem Dragon here. When a creature within 10 feet of you damages you, you can use a reaction to deal 2d8 of force damage and push them up to 10 feet away on a failed strength save, half damage, no push on success, and you get a +1 to these stats. We also have the Gift of the Metallic Dragon here, which gives you Cure Wounds, which is actually buffed with this. It actually does another whole die of healing, and which you can cast per long rest without expending a spell slot. You can also use it for your own spell slots as a reaction, and when you're hit by an attack, you can manifest Spectral Wings to add your proficiency bonus to your armor class against that attack. Interesting, it's kind of like a defensive duelist with a bit of healing on it. Now we got our newest expansion, the Heroes of Faerun, Forgotten Realms. This one actually has Karlach and Minsk on the cover of the book. It's cool. Feat, Cult of the Dragon Initiate. So you get to frighten an enemy with a magic action and gain heroic inspiration if you end up being successful. Interesting. The Emerald Enclave Fletchling. So you basically get to speak with animals at all times, and when you do a help action, you can swap places with a willing ally within 5 feet with a provoking opportunity attacks. Pretty sweet. There's also the Harper Agent. This is a musical feat, which lets you get proficiency in a musical instrument. You can distract enemies by using your instrument up to 30 feet. And you can also just play them turn gold and things like that too. We also have the Lord's Alliance Agent. So on a critical hit, you gain heroic inspiration, sweet, and you get advantage against foes who have hurt your nearby allies. So this counts if the enemy damages an ally within 1.5 meters of you, similar to the Oath of the Crown Paladin. You'll get advantage on your next attack roll against that ally or enemy. This is cool because you get your heroic inspirations back pretty easily this way. We also got the Purple Dragon Rook. Once per short rest, you can gain an heroic inspiration to allies equal to your proficiency bonus. So kind of similar to the Purple Dragon out of Banneret, which is a fighter subclass that is also included in this mod. You basically can buff up your teammates by giving them heroic inspiration per short rest. Spellfire Sparks. This is for the new Spellfire Sorcerer, but you can use this on anyone. Well, each turn you reduce magical damage. Learn Sacred Flame. You can use it a bonus action a number of times, equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. So having a bonus action spell, and now that there's so many ways that you just cannot cast spells, it's nice to have something like that. We also have the Tyro of the Gauntlet. So as a bonus action, you can impose disadvantage on attacks against you and prevent nearby allies from being pushed or pulled. So this is good if you're like a wizard and you need protection. To impose disadvantage on all attack rolls, that's great. And it also can then use to be applied to your allies as well. Xanathar Ruffian. Maybe you need the money, maybe you long for a family, no matter how dubious, or maybe you're just good at getting the job done by any means necessary. You've enlisted with the Xanathar. When you roll damage for an opportunity attack, you can add your proficiency bonus to the result. You can expend heroic inspiration and grant yourself or an ally advantage on the initiative roll. Getting advantage on initiative is really cool because it's not normally something you do in base game Baldur's Gate. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, I love Coldcaster. This is kind of like the Morning Frost staff, which is one of my favorite items. It gives you Ray of Frost, which will scale off whatever your stat is. Once per turn, when you deal cold damage, you get the target will subtract 1d4 from its next saving throw before the end of your next turn. This turns us into actually a really good debuffer because we can then set ourselves up to be able to get a spell off against them on the next turn. Pretty cool stuff. And it's still, like in this game, Hadafire Cutie still really good. So not the perfect one, but for a cold caster, it's nice to have something now. And you get a stat increase in one of your spellcasting stats. We also got the Dragon Scar. This does require you to have the Cult of the Dragon initiate feat, which is the first one that you got there. This is like a follow-up to it. You gain resistance to an elemental damage type, chosen when you take this feat, and you can activate the Dragon's Terror benefit as a bonus action now. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. This is just going to further enhance it. You can then take a Charisma or Constitution increase. So following up with this ability, we now have the bonus action casting of it. We also have the Enclave magic, which requires you to take the Emerald Enclave fletching. You get advantage on attack rolls and saving throws against beasts. Not an amazing amount of those in the game, but hey, it's something. You also have Dominate Beast prepared and can cast it once per long rest with a spell slot or concentration. And you also get a +1 to these spellcasting stats. We also got the Fairy Trickster here. When you disengage, difficult terrain does not slow you down. And when you hit a creature, you can force a wisdom save or give it disadvantage on saving throws until your next turn. And you can do that as many times equal to your proficiency bonus with a +1 to Dex or Charisma. We also got the Genie magic here. You gain one level 1 spell. I like this. And then at level 11, you get another level 1 spell and a level 2 spell and a plus to your stats. So this is good if you want to spam your stats and spells often, but with some of the changes, that's not as strong, but still nice to have. Harper Teamwork. When you distract a creature, this does require to have us the previous one, which lets us musically distract them. It has disadvantage on its next saving throw before the end of your next turn. If you end the frightened or paralyzed condition on yourself with a saving throw, you can end that condition for one ally within a 9-meter radius of you, and a +1 to strength or dexterity or charisma. So nice changes. And our nice addition here. I really like these ones that build off of the previous ones. This one, it requires you to have the Lord's Alliance Agent. As a bonus action, you can choose up to 3 creatures within 18 meters of you. Each target can use this reaction to end the prone condition. You have calm emotions prepared, and you can cast a prolonged rest with a spell slot or concentration, and may also cast it with spell slots if you want, and a +1 to strength or charisma. Pretty sweet stuff. Calm Emotions has some cool interactions, like if you're going against some of the harpies in the early game, it can be useful. Order's Resilience requires the Tyro of the Gauntlet. When you're prone, you can stand using only a 1.5 meters of your movement speed, and when you're within 1.5 meters of an ally who isn't incapacitated, both you and that ally have advantage on strength saving throws. You can't use this when you're incapacitated, and a bonus to those stats. Purple Dragon Commanded. So this is, again, similar to the Banneret. As a bonus action, you can grant an ally within a 9-meter radius of you temporary health equal to a 2d6 plus spellcasting ability modifier, a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. You have advantage on attack rolls while at or below half your hit points. Pretty crazy getting advantage on attack rolls like that, and a +1 to strength or dex. This is actually a really good feat. Spellfire Adept. You ignore resistances to radiant damage, and you cannot roll a 1. And you also get a +1 to your stats here. This is cool. It's like the Elemental Adept for radiant damage. Zhentarim Tactics. This requires a Zhentarim Ruffian. Immediately after a creature within 5 feet of you hits you with a melee attack, you can choose to make an opportunity attack against that creature, and you can choose one skill, and you can get expertise in that skill. Pretty cool though. This is just a nice way to boost up your overall damage output and get a boost to a stat. Now we're moving into the Lord of the Rings role-playing here. So against the unseen, you have to be an elf or a half-elf, and you get advantage on charisma saving throws and cannot be frightened. The Art of Disappearing for halflings, your proficiency bonus is doubled for any stealth checks you make. And when you take the hide action, you create a small cloud of darkness, or I guess it's fog cloud, similar to the cloak of displace, or there's a cloak in the game similar to this. We also got the Baruch Kazad, sorry if I messed up the pronunciation, for dwarves. As a bonus action, you can attempt to frighten nearby hostile creatures. This ability can be used once for short or long rests. You have advantage on attack rolls against frightened creatures, and a +1 to strength or charisma. Go dwarves. We also got Confidence. Overcoming difficulties has reforged your spirit and renewed your faith in a brighter future. So you get to take the feat Confidence, so you gain proficiency in saving throws using Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. Wisdom is really nice to have, and a +1 to your saves there. Deadly Archery for elves. You can use a bonus action to gain advantage on your next range attack this turn. You can only do this if you haven't moved yet this turn. Your movement becomes 0 until the start of your next turn, +1 to Dexterity. Dragon Slayer, advantage on attack roll against large or larger creatures, and you get a +1 strength or dex. Endurance of the Ranger, increasing Constitution by 1 to a maximum of 20, and advantage on Constitution saving throws. Pretty sweet. Fierce Shot. When you make an attack with a ranged weapon, you can use your strength modifier for the attack and damage rolls. If you have no more than half your speed and you hit a creature with a ranged weapon attack, you can deal a 1d4 of extra weapon with that damage type, and a +1 to strength or dexterity. We also have the Gleam of the Wrath. As a half-elf or elf, as a bonus action, you can make a melee weapon when you're wielding, emitting a dim light that gives it off for 1 minute, so against 10 turns. The light is sunlight. When the weapon gleams, it also does radiant damage instead of its normal damage type. And when you score a critical hit with a weapon, you can roll one of the weapon's damage die 1 additional time. Glowing weapon that's even powerful. We also got Hardiness, so your hit point maximum increases by an amount equal to your level when you gain this virtue, and whenever you gain a level thereafter, your hit point maximum increases another hit point. So this can actually give you some pretty good amount of health here, kind of similar to the Tough Feat, but a little bit more. Nimbleness, +1 to AC, and you lose this bonus if you're wielding a shield, and you get a +1 to your dexterity. Pretty nice. And Tough as the Old Tree Roots, halflings. When you would roll 1 or more hit die to regain hit points, you can then use the highest number possible for each die, and a +1 to Constitution. Pretty nice stuff. Now we're moving into some fun ones here with the Valda Spire secrets. Not a lot, but there's a lot of other content from this, like the finger guns cantrip. We have Firearm Specialist. You can add your dexterity modifier to the damage of your main hand attacks made with a firearm. This will also give a +1 to dexterity. So yeah, this is kind of one that you'd like to use if you're using a firearm. Like the new Gunslinger class that's included in here. And my favorite, I like this one a lot, Focus Critical. Your attack rolls with weapons and arm strikes can score a crit on a 19 or 20, and you also get a +1 to your dex or strength. I love crits. It's nice to have more feats for those. And finally, the last expansion here is the Crooked Moon. This actually has a lot of fun ones and powerful ones. Altered. You have scales, plates, or thick hide that grant you an armor class of 13 plus dex or constitution modifier. When you're not wearing armor, you have claws, fangs, horns, or some other natural weapon that you can use to make unarmed attacks that deal 1d4 damage on a hit. You have dark vision with a range of 60 feet. Cool. This is great for if you're going to use like the Blood Hunter class as well. The Charm Twister. You can cast this Bless spell once, and you can't do so until you finish a long rest. And you also can cast a spell using any spell slot. Bless is a good one, but I'd probably get it from some other source. Crimson Ritualist. This gives you the Blood Bowl cantrip, which can heal you here. So this one will do a 1d6 of damage, and you get a temporary health points equal to your proficiency bonus. Cult Initiate. You learn Eldritch Blast and Bone Chill, and you can cast a Hex spell once. You can't do so until you do a long rest, and you also can cast them using spell slots if you prefer. Dread Speech. You can cast the Bane spell once and then until you do a long rest. So yeah, that one's not really my favorite. It's probably the weakest one here. Next is the Fate Gambler. You regain all your heroic inspiration on a long or short rest, and you regain 1 use when you successfully score a crit against another creature. We have another one that was similar to that as well. Ghostlight Medium. Advantage on attack rolls against the undead. This can be useful in like Act 2, but we have other sources of advantage. Gravekeeper, you can use one or get 1 use to channel divinity feature from the cleric class, and you can use it to create do the turn undead effectively. If you already have channel divinity, you add this feature to the use of one of your classes of your choice. I think this means that you just use it on your normal channel divinity that you have. Hunter of Hunters, you advantage on attack rolls against monstrosities. There's a few of them in the game. Memory Starve, you advantage on investigation checks. You have advantage on saving throws to maintain or avoid the charm condition. We also get the Reveling Fool. You can cast Hideous Laughter once for free, and you also get a face painting kit once per long rest. We also have the Unreflected here. You lose a part of yourself, allowing you to fade into the background. On your turn, if there are at least 2 other humanoid creatures within 10 feet of you, you become invisible for 1 turn. And finally, the Swift Witchcraft from the Crooked Moon. You've honed your skills in the rituals of witchcraft. You can quickly weave your magic into times of need. Once per short rest, you can cast 2 spells that consume a spell slot in a single turn. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure how we actually activate this properly, but the thing is, it does remove the 1 spell 1 turn. No, it doesn't. Sometimes it does. I guess here we go. So we can't cast that, but we can then cast our cantrip here using this. So as you know, we got our feat Swift Witchcraft here, so you can cast that there. We got our bonus action. So we'll go ahead with the Swift Witchcraft here, and then we'll do our spell. We'll cast a magic missile on the ground here, and then we, yeah. This feat does come from the Crooked Moon here, so if you want to read up on a bit more of that, I do encourage you to check it out. But that is all the new feats that are included in the D&D Player's Handbook 2024 All-in-One Beyond by Yoonmoonsik here. And again, covering all those changes that happen to the base game feats, as well as all the new feats that are included with this mod. So expect some future content regarding this, as I want to break this down, as I've been getting a lot of questions, and I just want to highlight it because I think it's really cool. It's a new flavor of Baldur's Gate 3. So let me know your thoughts on the new feats. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll catch you all in the next one.